is such a huge issue, and I am so angry that we are not doing more to stop this.
Putting alcohol or drugs in another person's drink without their consent is a crime.
Seen increasing reports of spike.
Rohypnol and GHB are thought to be the most common drugs used to spike drinks. More than 4,500 offences were reported to police in the 12 months since May last year.
Illegally putting drugs into someone's drink, or by injecting them, is sometimes carried out to enable sexual assault, robbery, or merely just for sport.
But there are some statistics which show that there have been 5 times more reports of drink spiking over the last 5 years.
By the time the victim is aware of what's happened, it may already be too late to gather crucial evidence in the battle against a crime that too often goes unpunished.
Anyone can be a victim of spiking.
You, a friend, or a family member.
This isn't your usual cheery podcast, so if you're ready for the hard-hitting truth, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Dazed. I'm Molly Horton.
And I'm Sophie Ashley.
This is Dazed, a podcast about spiking and how it can affect those around you. This podcast will explore sensitive topics, as spiking is unfortunately more common than most of us realise.
And as 2 young girls who love a good party, we understand the risks that we can face on a night out.
In this episode, we will be hearing real-life stories from people who have been victims of this crime, and we will also be diving into the science behind it, and the toll that these drugs can take on our bodies.
With expert voices and raw emotions, we aren't shying away from the harsh reality of the world we live in. And for us, this hits close to home. Luckily, we've never been spiked, but our close friend has.
Gracie Jones has experienced having her drink spiked firsthand.
Yeah, so unfortunately I was spiked on a night out when I was with my friends in Cargo, which is a club in Manchester. I don't remember much about the night, but my housemate Charlotte does. It took us around 2 hours to get home, whereas it should have taken about 15 minutes. So we're going to retrace our Uber drive home to show the reality of how easy it should have been had I not been spiked. Hi for Gracie.
Hi.
Thank you.
Vibes. We were all dressed up. A couple of us were matching, so that was cute. And I think it was our first proper Halloween night out, so I think we were quite excited.
We got an Uber to Cargo. We started off on the bottom floor. There was a scrap when we first walked in. That should have been our first red flag.
I know, yeah, that should have been a sign to leave.
For sure, but no, we stayed. And then but the music down there was also rubbish, wasn't it? So we went up to like the top floor.
I think it was the very top one, yeah. We were all fine, laughing, chatting, singing, dancing as you do in the club. And I think I looked away from you, and then when I'd looked back, you weren't in that same like happy state. You were stood very still. It looked like you were kind of like staring off into the distance in like a really deep thought. But when we would try and speak to you, be like, Gracie, hello, there was no response. You wouldn't even look in our direction.
And at that point,
like that,
I feel like you'd seen me pretty drunk before.
Oh yeah.
And like, was it like it was different?
It was very different. I couldn't tell if you were upset or shocked or something like that. It just looks like a state of like you were not. Yeah, it wasn't like you were really drunk because you were stood still, perfectly still. From what I can remember, anyway, that you weren't like
swaying,
swaying or leaning on anyone or anything like that. Someone saw you and was like, yeah, she needs to go. Came towards through the crowd, took you under your arm, to guide you out, and kind of separated the crowd all the way down the stairs. We had to go up down a couple flights of stairs, the windy ones.
Yeah.
And the rest of us girls just followed behind. Not talking, I believe your eyes were closed. You were just sat still. I do think we had to kind of hold you to be sat up.
Right.
I think whilst I was running around trying to find an Uber, Emily was holding you up. And she was sat with you on the side of the road. Like you were having like your jaw looked like you had taken some sort of drug. Like you could just tell that it wasn't a drunk state, it was more than that. And it's not a long walk from where the Ubers drop you off to the entrance of the building, but carrying someone who cannot walk,
it's like a dead weight, I guess, as well. Yeah,
made it a lot difficult. I think we'd probably fallen over, dropped a few things. When we did eventually get into the building, after I don't want to know how long, eventually we did get to our flat, and we kind of sat with you. We couldn't get you changed or anything because that would have been too hard. Emily went down to reception, and I stayed with you. And a woman came up with her, and she looked at you, and we asked her, like, I think she needs an ambulance, and she said, she looked over at you and said, do you want an ambulance? And in your state, somehow you managed to say no, or maybe shake your head or something. And she looked back at us and said, if Gracie doesn't want an ambulance, then you can't get her one. You weren't getting any better, if anything, getting worse. The next day, I was mainly just relieved that you were okay.
Yeah. Just anywhere by here is fine, thank you.
Thanks for sharing your story, Gracie. How are you feeling about all of this now?
I think I've had a good, couple years now for it to digest, and I feel very different to when I initially got spiked. I think when it first happened, I was very paranoid. I was very conscious of everything, hyper vigilant. I think maybe I kept blaming myself. I was like, if I hadn't been maybe naive, if I hadn't been so maybe I was a bit more relaxed than what I should have been or something. I then realised I'm victim blaming there. It's not my fault that happened. It shouldn't have happened either way. So I quickly changed the narrative to no, it's not your fault. It never was your fault. And I gave myself that sort of time to get over it, in the sense of didn't go out for a little bit. Yeah. And when I would go out, it would be to very local pubs and, with my closest friends and stuff. And then eventually started going back out again. And now I'd say I'm pretty much back to normal.
That's good to hear.
I'm glad to hear that, yeah.
Thanks.
I think it was really interesting to hear from your housemate's point of view from that night. I've just got to ask, how important do you think it is to have your friends around you when you're in a moment where you did get spiked?
So important, so important. I dread to think what would have happened had they not been there that night, and also had they not been so on it.
Yeah.
I've heard some stories where their friends have been there but they hadn't believed them, or they didn't understand the severity of it and something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my friends, they knew me well enough to know that this isn't right. This isn't even just really, really drunk Gracie. This is there's a problem here. And I think it's so important now. If this ever happened to one of my friends, I think I'd know what to do. But equally, if someone didn't know what to do, just stay with your friend, no matter what. Even if you physically don't feel like you're doing something to help, being there and making sure that they are safe is enough in itself. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the motto for just going out anyway,
in
on a regular
general.
basis. Just don't leave your friends.
Absolutely not. Stick together,
especially
in
as girls. Just stay in groups. It's so much better.
I just think it's less likely to happen if there's a group of you. I feel like if there's one girl on their own, that's quite a vulnerable situation to be in. But a group of, say, 7 girls, I wouldn't want to mess with that. You know? So
yeah, fair.
Yeah. So I'm about to phone my dad, and I've decided to tell him about the night that I was spiked. So although it happened 2 years ago, I've never told my dad. I only told my mum. And I just think I just didn't want him to worry more so than he probably already was, with me moving up to a new city, 200 miles away from home. And it just, now it's felt too far gone. But I've decided, with doing this podcast, to take a step and to tell him. So he doesn't know I'm phoning, so I hope he answers, but let's give it a go.
Hi, baby, right?
Hello, you okay?
Yeah, not bad. You okay?
Yes, good, thank you. Are you free?
Good. Yeah.
How did you feel telling your dad about this, being spiked?
I was very anxious beforehand. I think, I hadn't told him for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I got to the point of, like you heard, when should I have told you? Should it been the next day? Maybe, but I just didn't feel like I could. Our relationship has changed a lot over the past 2 years, though. Like, before, I probably wouldn't have told him something like this. It's nice to tell the story once you've gained that control over it again. You know, like, now I tell the story and it's not like I'm so scared of going out now. It's I tell the story because I'm in a good place with it now, and let's do stuff like this and like raise awareness for it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? I actually did get spiked in October 2022, so in my first year of uni.
Okay.
And I know it's weird now to sort of say it 2 years down the line.
Yeah.
I was just embarrassed, I think, back then.
Why? Why were you embarrassed, babe? Like,
I don't know. I think for me, I like, similar to how you've described your story. I didn't remember sort of anything immediately after. Everything that I do know about it is just from what I was with, you know, Charlotte and Freya and Emily, like my housemates, is from what they told me. And I just think like the day after, or as soon as I realised I had been spiked, I just didn't know where to start with it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know.
I mean, there's obviously I've got loads of questions that, you know, I don't know even where to start.
I think after like it's been a week, then it's been a month, then it's been 3 months, and then when do you say, oh, by the way, I just sat around Christmas having our roast dinner and just say, by the way, Dad, I got spiked in October. Like, I understand, like, you might be like, oh, you should have just told me, but
I mean, I'll always say that to you about lots of different things, and obviously the situation now is that you're 200 miles away, and all I want to do is give you a hug and say, you know that you'll always be able to tell myself, your mum, whoever, anything. Thank you, and there's always here for you, you know that.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, love you loads.
All right, I love you too. I'll let you go though.
Okay,
all
right. Always thinking of you.
Yeah. Okay, love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
I sort of started thinking that maybe I was crazy.
I don't want to drink because everyone around me will be drunk, so I'm like, I've got to look after them. Or if I'm drinking, I won't want to, because I don't, even though I'm in my own house, and I'll be in my own house, and I'll be surrounded by literally my family, I'm like, it's put me off it completely.
And she's there, she's enjoying herself, and the next thing you know, we like turn to the side because she's just like, her body's like flopping onto other people.
When I'm stood in the toilet line sober, to then waking up the next morning with no teeth and having to hear all of this from my friends the next day, I was just a bit taken aback. I was a bit like,
what did you do the next day then?
I cried.
I was like, yeah, I just think I'm a bit drunk, and I sat down, and then about 10 minutes later, I do not remember anything else.
I don't know about you, Molly, but I love a concert.
Oh, no, me too. Like, one of my favourite things to have planned, like, months in advance. If I know I have a concert coming up, like, it's just all I think about. Plan my outfit, you know what I mean? All the Instagram pictures, everything.
Yeah, it's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wouldn't ever say for me it's personally like a heavy drinking night, but you might have one or two before you go in and watch them.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just tend to, like, just have water because I'm so dehydrated all the time from singing.
Yeah, that's fair. It's normally long nights as well, to be fair. So you would never expect to be spiked at somewhere like in a big venue?
Well, you wouldn't think you would be, but unfortunately, this is Charlotte, who did get spiked at a JLS concert in London last year. And this is her story about what happened to her and her sister.
Yeah, so we've been planning it for absolutely ages. We were going to a JLS concert and we were meeting my sister and her friend and her mum there. We were searched on the way in. Quite briefly, it wasn't a proper search. And then we sat down and we started having a few drinks. So by this point, we'd probably had 3 or 4 drinks, maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot. And we'd went to go up and get our final drink before we went up to the show. By this point, we were a little bit tipsy, but we weren't drunk by any means.
Yeah.
And he said, do you want your drinks in glasses? But if you take them in glasses, you can't take them up, or I can give them to you in a plastic cup and then you can take them up to the concert with you.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, we'll go for a glass because I don't think we're leaving yet. And then I realised they had the plastic cups on the side. So suddenly everyone went, oh, let's just go up now. And we said, all right, let's swap our glasses over. And I tasted my drink and I thought, gosh, this tastes strong. And my sister said, yeah, so does mine. Did you get a double or a single? And I said, oh, I think they're doubles, but it's what we ordered before. And we went upstairs, and then as we sat down, me and my sister were like, gosh, we are feeling like drunk now. And I said to her, right, I'm going to go to the loo before the concert starts. Went down and went to the loo and called my boyfriend, and I was in floods of tears and I couldn't stop crying. And he was like, what's happened? Oh my goodness, what's happened? I said, I don't know, I just can't stop crying.
Yeah.
Came back upstairs, and I remember tripping into a group of girls, and it was so embarrassing. And they were like, oh my goodness, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I just think I'm a bit drunk. And I sat down. And then about 10 minutes later, I do not remember anything else. My sister had been sick into a cup. That was pretty much all that I remember after that. Mum told me that we were escorted downstairs because obviously the girls in front of us had gone and said, like, those two girls are being sick, can you get them out?
Yeah.
And I'd been sick all down my mum's friend's leg, and like I'd been sick all over the floor, and like it was horrible. Apparently I collapsed at the bottom of the stairs, and had thrown up everywhere, and I was been sick all down myself. My sister was still being sick, but she was not as bad as me, so she was in a bit of a state because she was really worried about what was happening to me, not realizing that it was happening to herself as well. And they took us down to first aid, where I'd carried on being sick for the next like 2 hours. They'd done an ECG on me and said that I was all right, but they were going to call an ambulance anyway.
Yeah.
Got us into A&E, and that was kind of where I started to remember, like, that's where I started to feel like I was myself. But I just remember shaking, and like we spoke to the nurse and she said, oh, we get this a lot from the O2, like you can wait and we can put her on an IV, or like, to be honest, we just suggest that she goes home and rests. And Mum said, oh, are you not going to take like a blood sample or anything? And they were like, well, no, we can't, because we can't take it into evidence because we've got no police here. So
Right.
got us in a taxi, and Mum took us back to the hotel, tucked me up into bed. My sister and her best friend had fallen out at that point because my sister's best friend said, you're so drunk, you've just ruined our night out. And my mum was like, do you really think they're drunk? So they got picked up and they left Mum with me and my sister in the hotel. And my mum that night put in a report to the Met Police, just an online report. And we fell asleep and woke up the next day and were just absolutely baffled as to what had happened. So
did it go any further after the report?
They followed up. It must have been 2 weeks later, maybe. I got a phone call from one of the Met Police, and she said, we're looking into your case, and we've got the CCTV footage. And she said, can you tell me what you and your sister were wearing? She said, because I've watched the CCTV from that area that you said you're in, and I've only seen you once. And I said, that's really odd, because we were in there for about an hour and a half, maybe. And she said, I've only seen you once at the bar, and it was literally just the corner of you and like your sister in her jumper. I couldn't see you anymore in any of those time periods. And I said, well, what can you see? And she said, I literally see you just standing at the bar. And I said, well, that's crazy, because like there's a dance floor, there was the toilets, there was a whole set of tables all across that area. And she said, there's no CCTV for any of that area. There's 2 lots of CCTV, and they cover the front of the bar and the back of the bar. And there's no cameras on the bar staff pointing down at the bar, so that you couldn't even see if someone had slipped something into our drink. You couldn't see that area of the bar. So realistically, like that whole area was like not covered. And she said, like, we will keep a hold of your case, but realistically, like, unless someone else comes forward and we find more CCTV, we don't have any means to test your urine at this point. So that was a bit of a blow for me, because that kind of meant that it was done and they weren't going to take it any further. That was kind of where I got really emotional, because I was like, and I said to her, well, can I have my samples back? Can I go and get them tested privately? Like, what's the case on that? Like, can I, because I said, because I feel like I'm going mental. Because I feel like I've taken it this far, and now you're just kind of saying we can't do anything because we don't have a suspect and we don't have the means to do it. And I was like, that's so like heartbreaking for people like me, people who have gone through the same thing that I have and have been told we can't test your urine because we don't have a suspect, and it's a waste of resources.
I think that's so upsetting that she will never know the full answers to what happened to her on that night.
But I think that sums up, unfortunately, the answers to so many spiking cases, because the victims never actually find out what happened to them.
Yeah, it's so upsetting just to know that so many people are left with unanswered questions.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to, if you do get spiked, to report it to the police.
100%.
Because the more reports there are, the more it gets flagged up on the system, and hopefully the more can get done about it.
Now, we spoke previously about how being spiked can happen to anyone, regardless of your age or gender. However, a family wedding isn't somewhere I would ever feel unsafe. Well, this is Helen, and this is her story of when she got spiked at her niece's wedding.
So I went to the afternoon reception, had 2 or 3 Prosecco's before we went in for the meal, and everything was going well. I was having some food, and halfway through the speeches, they decided to have a break. So that was before the desserts. So they paused during that time, and I can't really remember anything after that pause. Something happened, I think, during that pause. And my daughter, who was sitting to one side, said I just looked completely vacant. She sort of said I looked a bit like my mum, who struggles with Alzheimer's, and just wondered why that was. But nobody sort of thought about spiking, because it's at a wedding and I'm 55.
Of course, yeah.
And apparently then I kind of went off to the toilet, and they said they saw me staggering off. And I kind of vaguely remember not being able to walk properly. But then the next thing I remember was I was in the toilets on the floor on my knees in a cubicle, thinking, I've got to get myself together. I've got to get myself together. I couldn't understand. I didn't know why I was there, but I felt like I was very, very drunk. And meanwhile, my husband didn't know where I was, but then nobody could find me. So my sister-in-law came in, said, do you want me to go and look in the toilets? And then she looked underneath, the bottoms of the cubicles and thought she saw me there. So she went back to get my husband. They came back. And I heard her saying to me, are you there? Are you okay? And I said, yeah. And she said, will you come out? And so I managed to get to my feet and come out. And then I don't remember anything else. But apparently I was snogging my husband and groping him when he came, and people were telling us to get a room, which is just what you want to do at 55 at a family wedding, be groping your husband's crotch in public, which was very interesting. I don't remember any of that. I heard him saying to me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? But I couldn't speak at that point. And at that point, I do remember my brother-in-law and sister-in-law saying goodbye to me. And I just felt like really ashamed. I thought, I don't know what's going on, but I felt like really, really drunk. And I kept having flashes, just like you do see on TV when people sort of illustrate what it's like to be drugged. But I didn't think I was drugged at that point, but I kept getting flashes of people and flashes of situations. And then when I got back to the hotel and I was lying on the bed, gradually, after about half an hour, I could feel everything lifting. It was like the clouds were parting, or if you've ever had gas and air or an injection to numb your mouth, it's like it started going, whatever it was. And I said, I think I've been drugged, because I could feel it going.
Yeah.
And about an hour after that, I was perfectly fine. I went back to the wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went back. Okay. Yeah, I went back to the wedding, and
so in that moment, did you think you'd been spiked then? And
then I did.
Yeah.
Then I did. I thought, I'm not drunk. I suddenly realised, I thought, I'm not drunk. It's going. This feeling is disappearing. Really terrible thing is for me is that I take beta blockers for an irregular heartbeat. And then the thought of somebody randomly drugging me, and not knowing that I already take medication, really scared me as well, because my beta blockers slow my heart rate down, and I just thought, how dare you? I went through that kind of shock, and then it's a bit like grief, I think, that shock and denial, and then that anger,
Yeah.
how dare you wreck like this much of my life, No, mentally I got worse and worse, actually, because I went back to the wedding, and I said, and people had seen me like staggering and not be able to sit up, and then I was fine, and I said, I've been spiked, I've been drugged, and nobody believed me, and I sort of started thinking that maybe I was crazy, and had it really happened, or had I just had a turn, or had I I went through all these different things of what it could have been. And
Did your close family, like your husband and your kids, did they believe you?
my husband believed me. My kids didn't really believe me to start off with, which was, and when people don't believe what's happened, it makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go anywhere. I would not take a drink off anybody at all, because that was a really bad thing about it, because I never knew who had done it, why they had done it, what they had given me. If at the wedding I'd been punched in the face by a stranger, everybody would have rallied round and come to help me. But because it was that, nobody was even interested.
Wow, like really listening to Helen's story, I can't imagine what it's like going through that and then still having no one believe you.
I think that's what stuck with me the most from her story, the fact that none of her family members actually believed her, and it's ruined her relationships with them now.
Yeah, it's made her have like strained relationships with her own like family members, and it made her feel crazy, which I think is so like you're doubting your own beliefs about what's happened to you.
And I know she was able to laugh about it now, but the fact that her and her husband, what she was doing to her husband because of this drug, I mean, listening to that, I did laugh when she laughed, but imagine that situation where you're in there and then your family's looking at you, and like it's insane.
I know you just feel so ashamed like the next day, but it's nothing you could control. Like you weren't in control of your body.
Well, I don't know about you, Sophie, but I feel like we should take a trip down memory lane to a time where nightclubs and partying were at an all-time high.
Oh yes, the famous era of raves and acid house, where there was no worries of covering your drink or wondering what was in your cup. And everyone was just there for a good time.
Well, my mum knows what that was all about.
Well, we used to go out early doors, because things wasn't open all night like they are now. So we'd go out about 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, just depended.
That early?
Yeah, because obviously we could only drink till 11 o'clock in a normal pub.
What clubs though?
Probably we'd go on to clubbing out to some clubs after we'd been out drinking, but then again 2 o'clock probably the latest you'd be out in a club.
What was it like back then? Was there ever a stigma, or was it more people were more open to do drugs?
It obviously happened then.
Did you
do drugs?
Yeah.
We dabbled. Yeah, everybody did. Well, the majority did, I think. Yeah, we dabbled. But it was just, I mean, it wasn't allowed, obviously, but it was done. It was the rave era, wasn't it?
Did you ever feel unsafe when you used to go out? Like, did you ever think, oh, in the back of your head, like, oh, I could get spiked tonight, need to watch my drink, be careful? Was that ever a thought?
No, never crossed your mind.
But why? Like, that's so intriguing to me.
It just wasn't, it was happening, obviously it was happening, but it wasn't as common as it is nowadays. Or it wasn't spoke about, maybe. Maybe there's a reason. But no, we didn't. Never thought you'd buy a drink from a bar, put it down, go off, have a dance, whatever, come back.
Well, did you know anyone who ever got spiked? Have you ever been spiked?
I think I was once, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
I was...
Really?
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know this.
I'd gone out and I hadn't had that much to drink, and I could drink. I used to drink. I used to be on my wine and soda or vodkas, and I'd had a few, but not as many as the normal night, and I don't remember getting home. I'm not saying nothing happened to me like bad, but I definitely was. And I was out with a few friends and Rita, Joanne, and even she said it was weird because I just went, I was gone.
Oh my
Something
God.
something must have happened that night, but obviously nothing serious as in,
Yeah.
naughtiness happened, but they got me home. I don't remember nothing. From what I had to drink, it shouldn't have happened, so.
Wait, stop. Your mum was spiked and you never knew about it?
I still don't think I've comprehended the fact that she was spiked.
Yeah, what the hell?
When I was sat there interviewing her, that was the last thing I thought she was going to tell me.
Yeah, you never expect that to come up in
No.
the conversation.
I didn't think it was going to hit so close to home when we started this podcast. I've learned so much so far about how dangerous it is, how common it is, but I never ever thought that my mum would have been spiked.
Well, yeah, you kind of just assume your parents are like invincible. I kind of forget
Yeah.
the life like
No,
before me.
exactly. The fact that she's been out, done things I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that did happen to her.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yeah, it was I felt a bit emotional, to be honest, because I know she worries so much about me when I go out.
Mm.
I've never thought, wow, like my nan probably felt the same as she does. And it was quite hard to sit and listen to her talking about it, thinking, wow, like I don't actually know what you've experienced in your life.
Yeah.
Like the danger and what situations you've got yourself in, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Like the fact that they've just lived a whole life before you and you've never really comprehended it is always crazy to me.
But I think it also made me like understand why she's so worried about me going out.
Yeah.
Because the worst has happened to her.
She's seen the perspective of it, yeah.
She doesn't want that to happen to me. So it has sort of opened my mind up a little bit that I should probably let my mum know I'm more safe than I do when I go out.
There's a reason for worrying, yeah.
There's a reason for the constant messages off her. Molly, you said...
It wasn't as common as it is today.
And according to a survey done by gov.uk, 80% of spikings happen in public places, regardless of your age or gender.
And especially in places where people go to enjoy themselves at night.
And the stigma around spiking in gender is also still an issue. Data shows 92% of victims are female, however men and boys are much less likely to report their cases, which skews the figures.
Also, according to a national survey by Stamp Out Spiking UK, less than 3% of cases are reported to the police.
We know that spiking offences are currently covered by more than one law, but they, however, do not have their own legislation.
However, spiking could become a specific crime after the Prime Minister promised a new legislation to encourage more victims to come forward in November of last year. We went out and asked 100 people ages 18 to 24, have they ever been spiked on a night out before? And the results were shocking.
82% has said yes, they were spiked on a night out before, which I don't know about you, Molly, but I find that to be really shocking.
Out of 100 people, saying, because that is 82 people.
82 people, that's mental.
We also asked if they knew anyone who had been spiked out on a night before, and 81% of people said yes.
We also asked, does the fear of spiking discourage you from going out? But 58% of people actually said no, it doesn't discourage them.
Now, does that shock you?
I don't know, because I wouldn't be put off a night out just purely because of the fear of spiking. Like, I know I still go out and I know it could happen, but it doesn't stop me from going out.
I thought that more people would have said yes.
Yeah, I think, especially nowadays, I think nightclubs are declining. Like, it's definitely not as big as it used to be. But I don't know, personally, I don't think it would stop me from going out.
I think one of the things what puts me off going on a night out is that most spike victims never actually know what drug is used in their drink or through a needle or even in vape spiking.
Actually, neither do I. That's such a good point.
I think we're going to need an expert's help on this one.
This is Anna Elishu, a PhD pharmacy student from London.
Yeah, so let's start with GHB, which is the technical name is gamma hydroxybutyrate.
Bit of a mouthful.
Yes, so nobody calls it that. It's liquid ecstasy. So the drug class is a central nervous system depressant. What that means is basically turns your central nervous system off a little bit or puts it in sleep mode, and it makes you very drowsy, very sleepy, and it can lead to memory loss as well, makes you a little bit sluggish, and it happens very quickly. If somebody is spiked with it, you might notice that their breathing is slowing down very much. They might even become unconscious as their brain is not getting enough oxygen because of the slow breathing. They might be confused, they might not know what they're talking about, or they're confused about their surroundings. When it's added into a drink, it tends to be a liquid. It's colorless, you can't really see it in the drink, but there are some signs you can look for. Fizzing in the drink, or you might see like an oily surface on the drink. The taste will also be slightly off. So those are the signs you can look for to identify whether a drink has been spiked.
Like, how dangerous are these drugs? What are the sort of extremes that could happen?
So the extremes would be death.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
If somebody if your drink is spiked with a very large amount, that dose could be toxic and it can lead to death, or firstly would lead to what we call respiratory depression. So your breathing would slow down to organs won't receive the oxygen they need, and it will lead to organ failure.
Right.
And leading to death.
I think one thing I've really taken away from this week's episode is how important it is to believe people who tell you their stories, but also how important it is just to talk to people.
Definitely.
Through this podcast, everyone in our group has found out that someone in our immediate family has been spiked, which we never knew before.
No. I still can't get over that my mum got spiked. And I think that's something what will stay with me forever. And I think something what I've learned from this week's episode is to just be aware. Unfortunately, you're never safe when you go out.
No.
And that's just the world that we live in now.
Yeah.
But it really has opened my eyes, and hearing from so many people and hearing all of them stories where they have been spiked, just to really be careful when we go out.
Yeah. And coming up on next week's episode, we'll be exploring spiking abroad.
I've been was with my older sister. I really regret that. Like, I wish we would have said, no, it's fine.
And we will be looking into the intentions behind planned spiking attacks.
You don't want to offend anybody, you don't want to upset anybody, and also you want to deliver truth, because there'll be lots and lots of real victims of this. And I think as somebody who's watching the show, if you've experienced this, you want to see the characters who are playing the storyline do it justice, because you know it has to be dealt with a sense of sensitivity and a sense of care around the subject, because you know you don't want people laughing about it or taking the mick out of it.